Okay, fine. Ready? Ready?
Hang on, I'm just going to finish this tweet and send. Hi, I'm Sim Finn, and we're going to make a short video about managing your online identity. It's kind of focusing on professionals, adults who work with children, but I think it applies to any of us who have an identity online, and we'll be exploring that very briefly in this video. That's my avatar on Twitter, and the reason that we felt that we would like to make this video was last week there was a story, an incident in the local and national press about a teacher who had been speaking inappropriately on Twitter, and we haven't seen the timeline, that's since been deleted and closed down, but the general principle is something we'd like to explore. So we can see in this case it was an assistant head teacher at the school faces an investigation into her use of obscene and sexually graphic language on the web. So a very powerful news story there, and something which clearly would cause concern to the colleagues and to the school, to the parents and to the children, and also, of course, to the teacher concerned. And so we then see the comment that is quoted from the school, which says, "The school is saddened that the decision has been taken to print these individual unrelated comments, however indiscreet, in a newspaper medium to an audience for whom they were not intended." And that's really the kind of thing that we want to explore a little more deeply here, is if you are posting online, can you take this view, which is it's nothing to do with these other people, this is a private conversation. So it prompted a debate, I think, that is happening across social media and within staff rooms at school, which is the two views. One is, I can say what I like when it is online. My bosses, my employers, whether it's a school or whether it's another organisation, they've got no right to interfere in what it is that I say or take a view on it. And the other part of this is the view that we would get from the media and perhaps from parents and wider society, which is we expect better from our teachers. And that is once an unreasonable expectation, because of course teachers, like anybody else, would like a glass of wine, and yes, they will swear and they will get excited at football matches and perhaps shout abuse at referees and at players. Of course they will. The question really is whether it does us any good, whether it is right to publish that into the wider world, whether it's via Twitter or whether it's via other media. And so we have two areas of the challenge that we need to address. One is bringing the rest of society up and saying, yeah, actually we do let our hair down and we do do things that perhaps we wouldn't do in the classroom. And the other part of that is to say, actually, if you are a professional and if you are held up as being a model for younger people and for other people, then perhaps we should try to make sure that those parts of our lives aren't publicised widely across the interweb and the wider society. But that is a difficult challenge for us. Here we can see a range of the kinds of online activity that we may participate in, whether it is Skype or whether it is buying things via Amazon, whether it is Flickr or whether it's online gaming. And the challenge that we have is something along the lines of, is our online identity different from our offline, our analog identity? And I would suggest to you that in fact we've now reached a stage where my online identity is part of my real identity, my traditional identity, my physical identity. And there is a blurring of those areas. Now I'm as responsible for what I do online as for what I do offline. So, and I can't really hold myself up and say, this is how you should behave online. What I can do is take a few moments to tell you how seriously I've taken this responsibility in my online behaviours. So we can see here, this is sort of Sim Finn, Simon Finch online. And there is perhaps a difference between Sim Finn and Simon Finch too, although they're two sides of the same person. The easy one for us to think about, perhaps in the first instance, is email. That's my work email sitting down there in Outlook. And what becomes interesting to me, I think, is that when we are emailing teachers, when we're emailing colleagues, other educators, we need to make sure that our language is at all times appropriate. What you will never find from me, wherever I'm emailing, whether I'm doing work email at home, whether I'm using my personal device, whether I'm using my work device, if I'm talking about other people, I will always be emailing and talking and using language in a way that I would feel comfortable if the person I'm talking about was in that room. Now that can be very difficult, particularly if you're at 10:30 in the evening and you're dealing with work stuff and you've got a glass of wine in your hand, but we need to keep that focused in our minds. Similarly then, I've been on Twitter for about 3 years, and right from the outset I made a very clear decision about how I was going to present myself and how people would interpret my presence on Twitter. And I'm here to inform, learn and entertain. Part of my job, I suppose, is that I'm to lead and guide other educators, and the only way I can do that is by learning myself. So I joined Twitter so that I could learn from people who were practicing in the classroom. And then I can then pass that on, I can interpret it and pass that on. At no time will you see that I'm making negative comments about people, other teachers, about kinds of schools, about other subject areas, about geographic locations, about politicians or about sports stars, but that's what you will see appearing in timelines. The other parts of my online identity are SimFin, the WordPress account, and my Postgres account. And because I'm managing my identity as carefully as I can, and that's not to say that I'm not going to come a cropper at some point if somebody decides to dislike the things that I'm doing or complain about what I'm doing. The SimFin account is very much an education document. I write essays about education, and I also, more importantly, include positive statements, feedback, evaluations from all of the sessions that I've done. And that means that on the internet, if you Google me, if you search for me, you will see a long list of proof, if you like, of evidence of that what I do is what people want me to do. And that acts as a counterbalance then perhaps to my Postgres account, which is much more a scrapbook, a snapshot of my days, and is as likely to be a picture of an event that I've done as a picture of my dog or of food or of my daughters playing musical instruments or being out with their friends and those kinds of things. I don't mind showing that part of my personal life, but you only get to see the part of my personal life that I choose to share with you. And so where does that take us to? It means then that when we're posting, we need to be, well, even if it doesn't feel comfortable, even if it feels like this is an infringement of our personal life, or of our personal rights, is that when we post like our enemies are watching. And you may think you haven't got any enemies, but of course we've all got enemies of a kind. We've got people who perhaps don't like the things that we're doing, who would like to have our job, who would prefer that we weren't around so they could shine more brightly, all of those kinds of things. So every time I post online, whether it's a blog or whether it is a tweet, I'm always mindful that somebody who perhaps doesn't love me may use that against me and say, look what this man has been doing, and that will reflect on my colleagues. I need to make sure that my colleagues in this room, in this building, are never ashamed of the things that I'm writing. It's a post like your children are watching. Now that could be your own children, because clearly as a critical audience our own children are up there as perhaps the most critical, but also the children that we teach, the children that we work with. And it's important that we're not giving them ammunition, and we're not causing them distress by writing things that would be considered to be inappropriate, or to make us look less of the role model that we're hoping to be. And posts like your colleagues are watching. Every single tweet that I make, every blog post that I write, every video that I make about social media, I'm very mindful about whether I am letting down my organisation and my colleagues, or whether perhaps I am reinforcing the messages that we want to spread to our audience and our clients. And so if we kind of come away from this with one thing, one message, it will be about managing the risks. We must aim to manage the risks to the best of our ability. No matter what we do, no matter how controlled we are in the language that we use on Twitter and in blogs and in email and so on, we can't eliminate those risks. Somebody may take something that we say out of context and use it against us, and it may end up being lies. It may be something that is there designed to sell the newspaper. But at least we are prepared by providing a balanced view of what it is that we do online. I'm SimFin, and I hope you found this useful. Thank you very much. Was that alright?
Yeah.
I'm going to tweet about it now. I'm just going to write a little tweet and say, I've just been recording myself speaking.